and I'm pretty banged up. So was in a park and ride shuttle going to the airport, and we got collided by another wreck, and three broken vertebrae and a pretty banged
Oh,
up, so fractured rib, but I'm okay and I'm healing fine. It's
oh,
just
geez.
it's been rough. So I've been working from home, so I'm wearing a t-shirt. Apologize in advance.
Is
That's
necessary.
horrible. I'm sorry to
Yeah,
hear that.
Yeah.
it was not fun, and it hasn't been fun, and I've not really been able to do much for the last couple of weeks. But I don't sit still very well. Y'all probably all can figure that one out about me. So
Well, glad you're okay and on the mend.
yeah, thank you. Believe it or not, they actually have seat belts on the shuttles, and I highly recommend wearing them. I've never done it before, but I will now.
I would have never thought of that, putting one on the shuttle.
I hadn't either until now.
Wow.
Sorry, I'm at the office alone and somebody beating on my locked door.
We couldn't hear it, Jim.
I just said I'm sorry. Despite being early, I'm tardy again because someone was beating on my office door.
Oh, gotcha.
Rap tapping on your office door.
That was an excuse.
Are we ready?
1 second, I'm waiting for Caitlin to, oh, and we got Deborah. Caitlin to give me rights back.
Okay.
I just gave them, sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. Thank you. Just want to be able to share the screen, the agenda. Okay, we are ready, Frank.
Okay. My name is Frank Mullis. I'm the chairman of the Sex Offender Risk Review Board, and I call the meeting for June 12th, 2025 to order. I want to welcome all our guests via YouTube. And Ms. Tracy, can I get a roll call, please?
Sure can. Mindy Ackerman.
Present.
I know that Elizabeth Bigham is running late, so she will be joining us at some point. Jerry Bruce.
Present.
Sheriff Brown is not able to attend today, and James Chapin is not able to attend today. Robbie Frederick.
Here.
Katie Gropper.
Here.
Jim Morton.
Here.
Frank Mullis.
Present.
Bert Reeves.
Here.
Lori Rozier.
Here.
Megan Thurman. Megan. Oh, we can't hear you for some reason. You're not on mute, so I'm not sure. You might have to change your audio. I know sometimes I have to do that. So you go to your audio and the arrow, it gives you a selection for your microphone. You might want to log off and log back in, Megan. Try that. Sometimes that works. That's always my answer for everything. Just shut something down, turn it back on. It usually works. It's 9 people, Frank. So we do have a quorum, even as we wait for Megan. We do have a quorum.
All righty. Give me 1 second. I'm going to begin by reading our mission statement. Our purpose and mission is protecting Georgia's children and communities at large by identifying convicted sexual offenders that present the greatest risk of sexually reoffending. It is the board's responsibility to determine the likelihood that a sexual offender will engage in another crime against a victim who is a minor or a dangerous sexual offense. Assessments will be used by SORRB to determine the risk level of the offenders and will be classified as level 1, level 2, or a sexually dangerous predator. All of our members have received and had an opportunity to review the minutes from the meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let's try this again.
I can hear you now.
Okay, there we go. Okay, sorry, it was just working a second ago. I don't know what happened. But yes, I'm here.
Are there any questions or comments or concerns about the minutes?
No.
No,
No.
Okay, do I hear a motion we accept the minutes?
Jim
moved.
moves.
Do I hear a second?
Second from Robbie.
Okay, all in favor of accepting the minutes as presented to you, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Any opposed? The motion carries. Okay, Tracy, do we want to talk about the committees here, or we want to wait for that with new business?
First, I want to just mention that Elizabeth Bigham has joined the meeting. Hey, Liz.
Hey.
And you go ahead and go in order. Frank.
Okay. So reports of officers standing committee is inactive. Do we have any unfinished business?
Um, I'm sorry to interrupt. Were we I'm not sure what happened during the collaboration yesterday, just with his office and the issues we're experiencing or going to experience about the number of cases, but we really, I recommend that you create a committee for legislative changes for how the board's going to be reviewing cases.
Right, and that's what I was asking. Do we want to do this here, or do we want to do that new business?
Well, I thought you just did reports of officers and standing committees. So that's where you would create a new committee.
Okay, that's why I was asking. I wasn't sure where we did
Okay,
that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, do you want to explain what's going on, and then we can go from there?
Yeah, so one of the things we had been anticipating, as y'all know, is that with the new budget and increasing our staff exponentially and being able to get more cases done, which means you guys are reading a crazy number of cases that is unrealistic for you to be able to do at some point. We need to get to a place that there can be a change to make it more realistic. So I have spoken with the governor's office, and we're able to work directly through the governor's office, but we need to come up with how you all would want to do this and what kind of language we would want based on what would be work the best for the board to make it realistic, to ensure that all the cases are read or some other processes taking place to get through these cases effectively, efficiently, and with integrity. So they definitely recommended a committee. Then the committee would meet, come up with some ideas. I could then share it with the governor's office, and they'll do, because we're wanting to expedite this as quickly as possible. So they would actually do something with that and, creating a bill. And of course, Burr, you can talk on that kind of, I'm not really sure exactly how that works directly through the Capitol because we've never done it that way. We've always had somebody carry a bill. But so definitely needing a committee, come up with that as soon as possible because we want to make sure we get it in place so we can get it signed and taken care of, for the next legislative period. Yeah, go ahead, Bert.
I'll volunteer to chair or take the head of whether it be the committee, however we want to phrase it. This is obviously in my sandbox, and I will volunteer to take the lead on that. And yeah, I mean, a lot of times the governor's office, through their floor leaders, which are legislators that carry the governor's legislation. So a lot of times agency legislation is carried by the floor leaders, which is good. It almost is, I don't want to say anything is quote fast track because that's not how it is. But when the governor's office brings forth an agency bill, there's an assumption that there's been a vetting of the issue. It's important for the agency, and so you instead of starting from home plate, you're starting on maybe first base, and it's still vetted and it's the committee process, but So the governors, so it's a good thing if they do that. Otherwise, the SORB, like we've done in the past with legislation, can also bring legislation forward. But
Bert,
yeah.
I'm sorry I have to interrupt. I've got an emergency phone call. Mindy, can you take over?
Yeah, you'll have to give me a minute though, Frank. So
I'm sorry. It can't, apparently it can't wait. I apologize.
Frank, or you can
Do what
continue.
you got to do. We'll get through the procedure here.
Good, Vern.
So, anyways, I'm happy to take the lead on that and work. I know all the people in the governor's office that we would need to work through on this. So, that's a piece of cake.
I appreciate
That's
that.
great. And,
You're the first one I
huh?
thought of. I
Say that
appreciate
again?
that. You're the first one I thought of.
Okay. Well, yeah, it would be derelict in my duties to this board if I tried to hide from this one. So,
Yes, you would. That's the truth. So, I would just ask anybody who'd be willing to be part of that committee. And if nobody volunteers, then Frank and Mindy will appoint a few people.
and what I'll do is I'll look at the code section that I assume that it's in code, that it's in the composition and requirements of the board, that it probably says somewhere that we all review every case. And then there's kind of multiple ways to, sometimes you can have the law state that you're delegating the process to the agency that in its rules and regulations would determine, so meaning it would take it out of law, and that the board, through the agency, could determine how it goes about. That's the most flexible way. That would be ideal. Sometimes you want it in law though, because you don't want for a group to be able to deviate too far. Going back to what you said, Tracy, the integrity of it all. And so we'll have to look at it and see what it says now and see if it makes sense to try to see if we can get it in rules and regs, or if we can either just better define how to handle the high caseload. So
I spoke with Amy Dorman. She's our kind of our rep as the COO at the Capitol. And she sent me an email yesterday because I've been talking with her about this. And I'm going to forward it to you because she thinks it may be kind of what you're talking about. I asked her to clarify for sure so I could share with you, but I haven't heard from her. So I'm gonna email that to you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to just start communicating directly with her and
I'd be glad to help. I'd be glad to help with that if possible, if necessary.
Okay, Robbie, I'm going to write you down. Thank you. And thank you,
Same here.
Bert. Yes, we were definitely already targeting you. You were probably going to be voluntold if you didn't volunteer. We need you.
Thank you, Mindy. That's what I was going to tell him as well.
Oh, I'm glad you're back, Frank, because I was frantically looking for my script.
No, I apologize. It was something that had to do, so I apologize.
Understand. Well, Frank, we were still, is there anyone else at this time that would like to participate in the committee? Or we will
I think
probably be reaching out.
Yeah, I'll volunteer if I can be of any assistance.
Who was that? I couldn't see. Was that
Liz,
okay.
Not Elizabeth.
Okay.
How many do we need on the committee?
Just as many as you choose. I have, of course, the chair and vice chair have to be on it. So we have Bert, Frank, Mindy, Robbie, and Liz so far.
I think that's probably plenty, unless anybody else is just dying to do this. So
I thought I heard Jerry Bruce say he was going to do it.
Oh, Jerry.
Brilliant lawyer.
No,
I didn't say that, but
are you joking, Jim? Okay. Well, I was.
yeah, I mean, if you want me to, I will. I never volunteer for anything, but I do what I'm told.
All right, Jerry, I'm putting you down.
You've been told, Jerry.
Thanks.
All right, good. Thank you. I think that's a good start.
Yeah. Sounds awesome.
And
Thank you, everybody.
reaching out to schedule working meetings.
Okay, and the name of this committee is called?
Legislative um, Legislative Task Force.
Okay, sounds great.
I'm available if y'all need anything as well. I know you've got Jerry, but if y'all need me, I'm here.
Thank you.
All right, are we ready to move on to unfinished business? Does anyone have any unfinished business, or anyone think of any unfinished business we need to discuss?
I'm thinking that probably was our unfinished business.
Okay. Any new business? Okay, Miss Tracy, for the executive director report.
Just the database, which will that will get started working on hopefully as long as we can do a sole source from Victus, who created our database to begin with. Originally, our database, we'd had two databases once I became director trying to be developed that had been recommended for a state contractor, and both of them were absolutely horrible. And then we got really lucky. DCS, when they created their portal, brought us in for training on that. And I was like, who created this portal? Because maybe we can kind of either piggyback or have the same platform, because it's similar to what we would have wanted. And so Invictus had created that for DCS, and so we contacted him because it was a similar platform. It was much cheaper for us to do because of course we didn't have much money. And so Invictus created the database for us. We need a bunch of updates now. The laws have changed quite a bit since that happened, because we got that back in 2018 is when it was developed. And with that, we need a lot of updates to the database. So we're currently putting it for sole source. I believe that's what we're looking at. There's a meeting today with DPHUD so that we can encumber those funds and get this database updated. So very excited about that. Knock on wood that we are able to do that, because we definitely need a lot of changes. And then the hiring goal, we have 4 full-time evaluators we need to hire, and we just hired an additional investigator. I was hoping for the full-time evaluators to begin July 1st, but it's going to be August 1st. So that will max out the numbers that we need for all our staff, actually. So that's really good. So Marcus will be busy again come August 1st. And then Marcus and I are going to ATSA, which is being held in September. And they have some really good things. So hopefully some new updated research with some things and that type of thing. And then GATSA, if y'all have not looked at your emails, I sent an email out. GATSA is hosting a 1-day training, and it includes Cito and Elizabeth Griffin and DeMonico. They're all related to internet offenders. Cito's probably is well renowned. He's awesome to hear. He does not speak over your head, which I really like, because research can be really complicated. He's done a lot of the research for CSIM offenders and traveling offenders. So he is a brilliant, and I love Elizabeth and Monaco as well, because they're really good, and they kind of speak more as giving really great examples of types of offenders. So if anybody on the board is interested in going, I know Jim, you already emailed me. Anybody else, you need to let me know as soon as possible so I can go ahead and get you registered for that.
I'll be attending as well.
And I want to say, the Delmonico and Griffin presentation is brand new. So I know if any of you have traveled to ATSA and seen them before, this is a brand new presentation that nobody has seen. So we are very excited about it.
Yeah,
Very bummed. I'm not going to be
pretty much all the top research. Michael Cito is the guy. I mean,
he's our headliner. Yes.
Yeah, he is the number one guy that you want to go to when this, other than Marcus. But I would say you don't want to miss this presentation. on CSIM with him.
She knows better than me.
Well, and I just feel like even with talking with him and scheduling the training, I was girl fanning all over the place and feeling like I was talking to a celebrity. So I'm very excited.
So I have Jim, Frank, and Mindy. Is there anybody else at this time know that you would like to go?
Yeah, I'd like to attend. It's Liz.
Okay. Perfect. And I really, Liz, I'm glad that you want to attend because I'm really curious about your feedback after you see their presentations, given your extensive experience.
And is it okay to forward your email to the SEAC office to just see if, I mean, obviously they'd pay for it and whatnot, but just to provide that training opportunity? Okay.
Oh,
Please, as much
more the better.
All of you, please feel free to forward. We need to market and advertise as much as possible. So please share with everyone that you know.
Cool.
Tracy, put me down as tentative. I need to check with my work schedule and make sure I can do that before I commit to it. So put me down as tentative.
I'm not gonna, I just email me if you are, because I'm not gonna register. So understand too, that if you do end up telling me to register and then you don't go, you have to reimburse SORRB for the funding.
Right. Yeah, I just want to get a green light from work first, and then I'll definitely let you know.
Is there a deadline for registration, Tracy?
There is, Mindy, is there's no
Not as of yet. We may have to change that. As of right now, no.
Okay.
No, but we would like for everyone to be registered sooner than later, just so that we can get everything organized. I would say we'll probably close registration like a week prior, just so we can get everybody together and everything mailed out. But as of now, technically, no.
I'm in the same boat as Megan. I'll have to look at my work schedule and I'll let you know, Tracy.
Yeah, I got to check my court calendar and everything. So I want to make sure that that's all covered, and then I can definitely let you know by tomorrow.
Perfect. That sounds great. And I just for the public to know that GATSA stands for the Georgia Association for the Prevention and Treatment of Sexual Offenders. And that is the same with ATSA, which is the national organization. So Georgia is a chapter of that. And they typically have for ATSA the most recent research or research seeking type of information regarding sex offending behavior.
And it's online, right? Was it online or in person?
It's virtual.
It's online.
Yes.
Okay.
So if any of you think about it more and you decide you'd like to go, just go ahead and email me too. So, and then the SORRB conference, the Sex Offender Registry Conference, is August 2025. And so Russ and Richard will be going to that this year. And I still need, Jim has given us some recommendations for topics to discuss for your monthly meeting after our meeting is done, our board meeting is done. So, but I've not received from anybody else. So just a reminder, please send any ideas for topics so Marcus can plan. And then, and that being said, please remain on after this meeting for Marcus's training. He's presenting on sex offenders and aging. This training is not available for the public. So we will do that once we are finished with this meeting. I will be inviting the staff as the evaluators as well to sit in on that meeting. And that is all for me.
Okay. The deputy director report.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Office update. We actually have some good news to update. Demolition started about 4 weeks ago, and since then they've also started construction. We're at a point where all our offices have been partitioned off, drywall, electrical run, first coat of paint. Right now we're in the middle of, they gutted the ceiling because we're going to replace the ceiling tile, light fixtures, as well as some HVAC equipment up there. Right now we're looking at mid to late July for completion. A lot of it depends. They said HVAC folks have to order some components. So depending on the lead time of those coming in is going to kind of dictate that final schedule. We also ordered furniture for the new space, which should be coming in about the end of July. So hopefully all that will kind of come together all at the same time. Um, and our audiovisual folks will be installing, I think, the second week of August. So the end is in sight for this project for sure. So that'll be a good thing. And next meeting, July 10th.
So how do we do budget wise
Or we do budget.
on the building? Because I knew there was a lot of controversy, so that's what I was just checking.
Oh yeah, so I spoke with Amy Dorman again, who has just been awesome for us, and she's really responsive to me, which I'm really, really grateful. And she kind of checked into it, and she helped significantly, so we were able to handle everything.
Okay, great. Amanda, or the investigator report, and then Amanda, or is
That's Russ would be the investigator report.
I'm here. We're
okay. I
we went
didn't see him on the picture. Okay, go ahead.
yes, we're we closed 185 cases last month, I said. We're still increasing some, and you're still going to see steady increase, I believe, as more of the newer folks get up to speed each month. So, but that's all I have.
Okay, great. Thank you. Amanda.
Hi. Yeah, we just added someone new, just started their own independent caseload. So you will see a new name in July, a new evaluator that will be submitting her own cases, and maybe another one depending on how the rest of June goes. And I agree with what Russ said. As these new people get up to speed, you will see them submitting more cases each month. That is the plan. So it will be increasing as each month goes by.
Thank y'all so much for your hard work. Okay, I believe we are ready to review the cases. Is that correct, Tracy?
That is correct. And let me switch out. I know it wasn't until the re-evals that we had some cases discussed. So yes, you can go ahead and get started on that.
Okay, can you explain the leveling process for us?
Yes, so SORRB receives multiple lists throughout each month, and including individual referrals such as court orders. And that information goes into our database. We receive nothing other than a name and identifier. So we start out with nothing. The investigators go out once they've obtained the criminal history between GBI for the out-of-state criminal information, and then we get the Georgia criminal information. And anything that's relevant to risk, they go out and get those documents. So it's not just a sex offender information or sex offense information, I'm sorry. It could be anything violent or anything suggestive of sexual type behavior. And once they complete the case, it goes to the evaluator's workflow. They choose the case that they work on. Once they finish that case, it's then uploaded for the board to read. And then that's read throughout the month. And then we have the board meeting, the vote occurs, classifications are sent out to the appropriate individuals, including the offender. And then there's the ability to request reevaluation if they're a level 2 or a predator. And then that process starts. And the offender is permitted 120 days to submit any additional information. They have to request a reevaluation within 30 days, but then they have a total of 120 days from the date of the letter to submit any information they'd like to submit. And then a report is completed again, and a vote is completed. If the individual still doesn't like their classification, they have the ability to go to Fulton County Superior Court for judicial review. And that process starts. I think that's about it.
Okay, and have all the members had an opportunity to receive and review all the cases?
Yes.
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 Anyone who was not? All right, we have 30 level 1 cases, and I have multiple recusals. I don't know all the numbers. I think there were a few others. Any recusals?
So Frank, I'll just read yours. You want me to, is that how you want me to do it?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no problem reading out recusals. So recusals we identified, because we do that as with the evaluators working in the case. Frank was 12251. And Jim Morton was 15693. Frank was 20217. 20355, 26666, and one more with Frank is 32815. So Jim had one and Frank had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 recusals. But we do have a quorum regardless of those recusals, so we're good.
And
Okay.
I need to recuse on just one case. 32227.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do any members have questions, comments, or concerns about the level 1 cases? All right. Do I hear a motion to adopt the level 1 cases that have been presented to the board for review?
So moved, Lori.
Second, Robbie.
All right. Could I get a roll call, please, Tracy?
Ross, thank you for letting me share my screen and put the list up. So, yes, for the level 1 cases, we have 30 cases. And other than your recusals, when I call your name, Mindy Ackerman.
Aye.
Elizabeth Bigham.
Aye.
Jerry Bruce.
Aye.
Robbie Frederick.
Aye.
Katie Gropper.
Aye.
Jim Morton.
Aye.
Frank Mullis.
Aye.
Bert Reeves.
Aye.
Lori Rozier.
Aye.
Megan Thurman.
Aye.
Thank you. They all pass.
All right. Thank you. We move on to our level 2 cases. We have 51 level 2 cases, and any recusals for those, Tracy?
Yes. So we have several. Okay. So we have for Frank 11965, 14413, 15476, 18861, 23159. Robbie, we have you for 23879. Frank, again, we have 29541 and 31855. That's it.
All right. Any other recusals we may have missed? Any members have any questions, concerns, or comments about the level 2 cases? All right. Do I hear a motion we adopt the level 2 cases as presented to the board for review?
So moved. Liz.
Jim seconds. Jim Morton.
Okay. Can I get a roll call, Tracy, please?
Going to recuse in certain cases what your vote is. Mindy.
Aye.
Liz.
Aye.
Jerry.
Aye.
Robbie.
Aye.
Katie.
Aye.
Jim.
Aye.
Frank.
Aye.
Bert.
Aye.
Lori.
Aye.
Megan.
Aye.
They pass.
Thank you. Okay, we have 22 sexually dangerous predator cases, and I know we have some recusals on that, Tracy.
Me too. And we have, so for Frank, we have 11595, 16974. Jim, we have 20435. Robbie, we have 22060. Frank again, we have 22761 and 23444.
Any other recusals we may have missed? Any questions, comments, or concerns about the sexually dangerous predator cases that have been reviewed? All right, may I get a motion to accept the cases presented to the board?
So moved, Megan.
Lori, second.
Thank you. And can I get a roll call, please, Tracy?
Mindy, any questions or concerns about any CP cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
And just a reminder, those who have recused cases, this includes your vote to not be voting on those cases. Liz, any questions or concerns by any SDP cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Jerry, any questions or concerns by any SDP cases?
No, my vote is aye.
Robbie, any questions or concerns by any of the SDP cases?
No questions. My vote is aye.
Katie, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, aye.
Jim, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, my vote is aye.
Frank, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, and my vote is aye.
Bert, any questions or concerns about any of the SDP cases?
No, aye.
Lori, any questions or concerns about the SDP cases?
No, my vote is aye.
And Megan, any questions or concerns about the SDP cases?
No, my vote is aye.
They pass.
All right, thank you. We have 10 reevaluation cases. Any recusals? I don't think I have any for this one.
Actually, there were no refusals for the reevaluations.
All right, so Bert, I know you had several questions and concerns.
Yeah, I'll start with the two that I'm kind of lumping together because my analysis is the same. So 23563 and 27162.
Start
Both
with
of these-
263.
Both of these cases there was an evaluation in January where a level 2 was established. And then each case, so for 27162, a couple months later in March, there was a reeval with additional information. And then in 23563, it was 5 months later in June. Is that right? We're in June now.
Second is when the report was written.
June 2nd. Yeah, wow. It's fresh off the press. Okay, so as soon as January, these were viewed as level 2 as the appropriate leveling, which reading the fact patterns seemed consistent and seemed like an appropriate leveling. And then subsequently, a couple months later, looks like through attorneys, additional information was submitted. I'm not really good at the scoring, the whole scoring thing that happens on the last 2 pages of all these reports. But I guess my question is this. I want to know if the additional information that was submitted in both of these cases in the last couple of months, if that information had been considered in January as opposed to a couple months later, like, oh, wait, here's some more information, take another look. If it had been in the file in January, can we say with certainty that the January evaluation resulted in a level 1 as opposed to a level 2, which is what it was? If we could go back in time and this missing information that was not reviewed because it wasn't there in January, if it had been there, then can we say with 100% certainty that these would have been graded as level 1s at that time? And the reason why as been on this board for years now, I continue my attention to the folks stepping down, to get to level 1, and then obviously from level 1 is how you get off the registry. And that's something that we have no input on. It's a judicial thing. So to me, it's a significant issue. It's a significant responsibility when we see someone leveled from a level 2 to a level 1, because that makes them one step from being able to come off the registry. And so is it possible to say that missing information, because to be honest with you, in one of the cases, Okay, so
Bert,
yeah,
can I talk before you go to the next one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say, based on your question, if we had the information that we have now in January, that yes, this specific offender would have probably leveled A1 because the information that was now added to the reevaluation was very significant in regards to risk reduction. It was the
and is that the proof of completion of treatment?
Yes, yes.
So just so the proof of completion of that in and of itself is determinative of a level 2 to a level 1. And I mean, and if that's the answer, then I accept that. I just want to make sure what I want to know is if that information had been present in January, this would have been a level 1 back then. And what you're saying on this particular case is you're saying yes, it would.
And I'm speaking from clinical background and, Marcus's trainings, that the two significant risk reducing factors that we look at is one, successful completion of treatment, and time in the community without committing another offense. So with this additional information, and Marcus can talk probably about this later, and I know he gave us some statistics and data of how much that actually does reduce recidivism. And so, yeah, there is a lot of weight that is put on that completion of treatment. And then, of course, in the summary of that one particular one that we were just talking about, and Tracy, I think you're still on it. Yeah, there were no other sexual offenses, no other criminal history, was compliant with supervision. So I felt very comfortable with that reduction. Now, I would have agreed with the level 2 with the incomplete sex offender treatment. But now that we have the completion, I felt comfortable. And somebody else, please speak up. And Frank, I know you're another clinical member. Jim, I don't want to be the only one speaking, but that's my opinion.
I think that's what I looked at for sure.
As it relates to Bert's concerns, like as for this particular case, it's less to me about like I understand the reasons for reducing it based upon the completion of sex offender treatment, but Mindy, you mentioned time free in the community, and this individual victimized a small child. That we switched to a different one, but the last one was a father that victimized his 3-year-old daughter, and he'd only been free in the community for 3 years. Like, to me, that gives me more stress. The fact that he's only been free in the community for 3 years and making him a level 1, and he's now potentially going to petition to come off the sex offender registry, and I don't feel very comfortable that 3 years is enough time to really assess whether that's an appropriate remedy. And I know that that's not really the role of the board, but we do know that that's the practical implication. So from a clinical perspective and all the education that we've gotten since being on this board, I understand and agree with the reasons for the significance of completing sex offender treatment. My stress lies in not enough time having passed to really get a good indicator of long-term compliance and lack of concerns. So making somebody a level 1 with such a serious offense in such a short period of time is the thing that causes me stress.
Katie, and to be clear, you're talking about 23,563.
I think I was talking about 27,162.
Yeah, I think I was talking about the previous, Tracy, can you please go back to the other and scroll down?
I made a mistake by grouping these together. I should have done it one at a time.
You could go, yes, stop. No, can you go up again? Scroll down. No, up, down. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. Now I don't see it. So now I'm getting confused. But Katie, yes. And for that one particular one, I agree with what you're saying. That is definitely a concern. But for that reduction, they did not mention the time in the community. Like, he did not have that on his side. I agree with you. But I don't think that was mentioned as a reason.
3563. I think we need to do one case at a time.
Yes, please.
So look, we're on 23,563 right now, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I'll just.
That's the one. Wait, is this the one that's up? Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
this is
one
the one.
has a 14-year-old victim.
This is the one I was referring to with Bert in my talking with Bert. Yes, and as you can see, the recommended risk level.
I
Yes.
concur, Mindy, I concur with you, Bert, to answer your question. Yes, I think I would have made that a 1. Also, now I'm looking for his time free in the community.
It's less than 4 years, 3.5.
Well, but and I hear that, but I just want to say that was not a reason for the reduction. So they didn't put the time in the community. That is one risk reducing factor, but you know, I don't think we've said you have to have both. You take everything else into consideration. But I completely agree with the concerns. I'm just kind of putting that clinical piece into it. I'll quit talking now.
Something just really quick as y'all are thinking, because this is our struggle with having 3 different levels only, is
Yeah.
because it incorporates a significant pool of offenders. So what the evaluators are tasked with is, are they really a low level 2 or predator, moderate level 2 or predator, or high level 2 or predator? So you might have an individual who's a low level predator or low level 2, and one thing such as treatment completion could get them lowered. But they might be a moderate or a higher level, and then treatment completion would not reduce their risk. So I just want to throw that out there because it does get really confusing. I totally get it because the pool is so huge. So that being considered.
And I would say this too, Bert, just from my working as a clinician and men coming in saying, how do I get off the registry? How do I get off? A lot of them don't even know, and this is for the citizens. Just as if you're a citizen and you want to get off the registry, then you may not know you're being leveled because we look into the DCS computers. The board members don't, but our investigators do. So once someone gets a letter, oh my gosh, I'm a 2, that's their invitation, in my opinion, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tracy, when they can directly submit stuff to the board, such as treatment completion, because we're just not going to get that from North Carolina because maybe it never made it to the DCS portal, and HIPAA doesn't allow the board to request that.
That's right.
Well, since I opened this can of worms, and I think that I'll echo some of in moving on to the other case, I too have more concerns about the other case than I do about 23563. I mean, you guys are you're saying had this treatment completion, which he completed apparently in 2023, so 2+ years ago, had that been in front of the evaluation in January, that this would have seemingly, by all accounts, most likely resulted in a level 1. And that's what y'all seem to be saying. I am more comfortable with this case and that result than I am the other case. So do we need to keep talking about the first case, or is it appropriate to move on?
Well, it's up to you.
Well, I guess I raised concerns, and the question that I wanted answered has been answered in that, with relative certainty, had the 2023 treatment completion documentation been in the report or in the file in January, this would have most likely been a level 1. That was my question. That was the answer. Personally, I'm comfortable with that answer and can move on from this one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So the next case, which is 27162. You know, this case is pretty the underlying facts. You know, this is not a no touch case. This isn't a quote victimless case, right? Like this is a pretty lewd act of a 33-year-old father with his 3-year-old daughter, with a 2-year delay in it all coming out. But the guy, served a while in prison, and it looks like the additional information that was added was that he completed a sex offender treatment intervention and progress scale, SOTIPS. I don't know what that is. Y'all can educate me. And then it looks like he did some continued voluntary treatment when he wasn't required to. This looks to me like, and I know that this person had an attorney, and this looks to me like, hey, as your attorney, if you want to get off the list, then I need you to volunteer. And you don't have to do this, but if you'll volunteer to do this, that'll look good. And why don't we go ahead and do this SOTIPS thing so it shows that you're doing something? You do those things, then we might get you closer to getting off the list. And so I see that, and it just kind of, and again, I'm making assumptions, and I don't think it's necessarily correct for me to do that, but I'm just, I'm just being human here. I don't know what SOTIPS is. Is SOTIPS a big deal? Is this significant at all? Someone voluntarily doing treatment, I guess on the one hand, I can see how that could be a mitigating thing. On the other hand, if you're trying to get off this list, that's exactly what you do to have information to mitigate your circumstances. And I agree with Kate, all the reasons that Katie mentioned. This underlying fact pattern bothers me. And I think that a level 2, when I look at this case, and y'all tell me what SOTIPS is,
Okay.
and if it's a big deal, then maybe my mind can be changed. But when I look at this fact pattern, and I look at the lack of time, and I look at, so what, he went to voluntary treatment. When I look at those things, I don't think that this takes this from level 2 to level 1 for me.
SOTIPS is similar to the stable and the acute. Is that correct, Marcus? If I know, because that's one of the things that we do, is it goes through and looks at its current risk level. And I'm sure it was interview and with his probation officer generally is involved in that. And you go through the various different criterias that have been related to risk. And it's at the current status. Generally, it may be up to the previous year. Is that correct, Marcus?
That's 16 items that the person is rated, that the offender is
Right.
rated on by the clinician. And it's designed to be given every 6 months, I believe.
Right.
So it's
I wanna add one more
specifically
thing.
developed to look at change over time, unlike like a static.
Right.
And
It's very similar.
It's
Very
received
similar
a
to
fair
the
amount of
stable.
support in the research literature.
It's used a lot in the federal system as well.
I want to add also things about this case. I almost forgot about this. This whole thing with him taking testosterone and then saying it's because his girlfriend had cancer and was going through chemotherapy. And I mean, those are just, I don't, that's not the kind of thing I really appreciate reading about when someone's trying to, I don't think that those are good facts. And I think that there hasn't been a whole, again, going back to the amount of time. So I have a lot of concern about this one. And I would love to hear other people's opinions.
One reason that I agree with your concerns and Katie's concerns, but it does seem, just all I can comment on is the treatment provider standpoint. It seems like this provider went way out of her way to hit him with medicine, hit him with, I'm sure she did CBT. If she's doing the SOTIPS, she's doing dynamic risk factors. We're doing static. Well, we're doing both, but so we have to, I guess at some point we have to trust the provider knows what that person needs and will not let him go, because she could keep him for 10 years or the duration. But yeah, it's like, I tend to agree with our director that these are cases that are very difficult. So I don't think about whether he's going to be off the registry or not. It just,
Jim, you might agree with me. And as Bert talked about the testosterone back in July with the excessive masturbation, I would argue that's probably a result of the testosterone. being added would be one of my thoughts. So, but that is, something, I would look at there as well. It's one of the concerns when I have some of my own clients start testosterone.
So with a person, and again, I don't know if I'm considering things that are outside the scope of what I should be considering, but for a person with this kind of fact pattern on their, on their record, very serious case, did serious time in prison, and then that person is wanting to take testosterone, that's just a red flag to me.
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like a bad idea. I'm not a doctor. I do think from the original risk assessment, risk increasing factor of sexual preoccupation, high sex drive, the original report said he's done with treatment. So the provider comes back and says, well, he is in aftercare. He's got a safety plan. The wife's in chemo, whatever he's doing to meet his sexual needs, maybe he's not on testosterone. Those would be things the treatment provider probably knows, and she's writing him a letter of support. So that just has a lot of weight to me.
Amanda, can you give us some more information on your end?
Yes. So in this report, one of the factors that we took into consideration making him 2 was the sexual preoccupation and the high sex drive. We were concerned about the excessive masturbation that was reported. They addressed it as he was reporting when he under stress that he was turning to excessive masturbation. So he reached out to his officer initially. His officer and treatment provider spoke together about this and were working together about how he had done the right thing when he realized that he was masturbating more than usual, and had reached out to his officer and his treatment provider to work on a plan to address the increased masturbation. So they saw it as, okay, he recognized something that was an issue for him. He reached out first to his officer and his treatment provider coordinated together to work on a plan to kind of address this issue and work on fixing this issue. And then he's continued in maintenance, and he's continued even voluntarily, which I agree with Bert that yes, maybe that it does look good, except that most people don't do that. It's actually unusual that after they are not required to attend anymore, that they continue to attend. So with the
And this
letters,
person's attorney knows. I'm going to stop. I'm making assumptions that I have no basis to make, so I withdraw that statement.
well, actually, you're right. We don't know when he got the attorney. We don't know those issues, of course. So the letter from his officer and the letter from the treatment provider that both of them wrote, supporting him and supporting that they were aware of the masturbation that he came to them initially when he realized it was a problem. Those were factors that they addressed, that we had addressed in the initial assessment.
Do we know if he's had a sexual history polygraph? I didn't have a chance to go back and look detailed at that.
There's not one mentioned in this report.
I didn't think so.
Yes.
So, so what I understand, it's a father incest related to his daughter, and that's typically a lower risk than if it was outside the family, so forth. But if there were other victims found in a sexual history polygraph that may come, and I don't know why he's not, if we haven't had a sexual history, would that affect it, Amanda, if he had another victim?
Yes.
Yes,
That could affect
but we don't know that based on there's no sexual history, correct?
Right, which is a problem. We often don't have a sexual history.
Right.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I did see a note in there that said that he's admitted to having interest in his stepdaughter. I have a concern about that, because if he was to get off the list and be able to be around her, I don't know what his his restrictions are right now. So that would be a concern to me.
This file is just not as clean as I want. Like, I just think it needs to be cleaner to go from 2 to 1. Maybe there's not a magic bullet, but to me, it just seems I don't feel comfortable on this one.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. I think right now my vote would be to vote no. Is there any other information that is there any other information that we are lacking that could potentially be out there that could make the case stronger or weaker? Is if we pull this file and request more information, is there anything out there that we don't have that could be indicative of whether, which direction we should go?
Amanda, Tracy?
Well, I think certainly if we had a sexual history polygraph on him, but I say that cautiously because that would be true of every case. Okay, and ideally we would have a sexual history polygraph on all of them.
Well, in this particular, I hear you, and I certainly wish we could, but in this particular case,
we can't hear. We can't hear Tracy. I think trying to talk.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Now we can.
Okay, that's so weird. So Amanda, what he's asking is if there is actually information you can find in other databases like DCS or whatever that could, if they were to pull the case versus to vote on the case, you can get more information that's already there, not what we would like to be there.
Okay, no, we have looked at all the information that is available. There would not be any more information that we could find because we have looked at all of it.
And again, I think this is one of those cases like Tracy was mentioning that just does not fall within the 3 levels that we currently have. If we had the 5, that would be so much better. If you're just looking at the facts, he was below average risk, completed treatment. The time he does not have on his side, but I also see the concerns, as I think it was Megan mentioned, of the attraction to the stepdaughter. I don't feel as confident on this one as I did the previous one, but whether or not that's enough for a level 2, I'm not so sure.
Well, and it also shows that he has a history of having inappropriate situations with his brother and a neighbor. So that's concerning because it seems like it's been a constant thing.
We don't know if he's the victim or the aggressor in those situations.
Right.
I get it. That's a traumatic. He's obviously got a traumatic sexual childhood, but we don't know if he's the victim or the aggressor. And I think that information could be enlightened.
That would matter as far as, that would matter in the juvenile world. I know that they often don't put that for adult risk assessments, but if this all started as a juvenile and he continued into adulthood, then that matters. You can carry over some of those juvenile risk factors.
And I don't think I didn't see where it stated that he was a juvenile when that happened. So again, we don't know. He admitted to it, but it doesn't look like it was reported at the time.
Well, how about this? To not belabor this, because I'm the cause of our delay today. I apologize, but if we pull this case from today, is there supplemental work that we can add to it that can lead us to a better decision, or do we have what we have and we just need to vote on it?
Yeah. We could, if you want to pull it and contemplate it further, then we can do that and just resubmit it for next month.
I mean, I will say this right now, I'm a no. If there's no other information that tilts the scale one way or the other, I don't know if that changes for me. So, I mean, is the best thing to do just to vote? I really would like to hear from other people.
Well, Amanda said there's no more information, so I don't think us holding it over to next month is going to change the information. Is that correct, Amanda?
Yes, we have no other information. We can look it over with the information that we have.
Now, could you request from the treatment provider any updates, or was the latest update is what we have in June?
This is the latest update that we have.
Okay, so then that was just in June, correct?
Correct. The date of the report, it would be, yes.
June 2nd.
I believe it's 5/28.
Yeah, May 28th. That's right.
Yeah,
Yes.
so I mean, I understand, Bert, if you want to vote no, that's your option.
Right.
And so, is there any other questions or concerns?
Amanda,
Yes.
the admissions about having fantasies about his minor stepdaughter, do we know whether that was before treatment or after treatment, or is there any sort of time frame about that?
Let me see.
I'm looking at other factors taken into consideration.
Right. So I know he admitted that at the time of arrest in 2015.
Okay, so that was prior to his treatment.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
I guess there's a lot of things in terms of the short timeline and this individual that's bothering me. And just to kind of piggyback on what Bert was saying, like there's some risky decisions being made by him. Like there's statements in here that he scaled back on his mental health meds because it was interfering with his testosterone. Like in terms of prioritization of what needs to be taken care of, it needs to be his mental health and not his sex drive because his partner can't engage in sexual intercourse with him because she has cancer. And the other thing is he denied that he watched pornography, but he indicated he was looking at women in bikinis. So like he's trying to, is testing the limits and is doing things that are maybe have the potential to lead him down a bad path, and he's putting his toe in the water, so to speak. And I think those things, coupled with the short period of time he's been free in the community, like those things are what give me stress about a level 1.
Why don't we vote? Or do we need to vote later?
Is there another? Well, is there one more case, or is
Yes.
it just two?
I have one more
Are there
case.
any more? Yeah. So we got one more case where we can vote anyway.
Do you want me to go on the third case?
Any other questions or concerns about this case? Any objections of us looking at the third case now? Okay, so third case, Tracy.
Hello?
Yeah, it's up. Can you not see it?
Yeah. Okay,
hear
so
me?
look, 3431. It looks like this was a 10-year reeval. It was reduced from 2 to 1. I mean, again, I'm finding lots of red flags in this. On page 4, in the time sex offense free, it says, the offenders acquired 10 years free in the community. Well, I guess that's specific to sex offense. Look, I'm not comfortable with the fact that this guy has gone back to prison, or at least jail, multiple times. This is he has a pretty distinct history of non-compliance. Date of release, 2009. I mean, this guy just does whatever he wants. And I get it. They're not sex offenses, so to speak. But he's been around children. He's played dumb when he's been around children, acting like he didn't know. He was terminated from sex offender treatment in 2015. Then he re-enrolled and completed in 2016. I get it that 9 years has passed since then. I get it. The bottom line is that no new known sexual offenses for 14 years. But I think this guy plays by his own set of rules. He clearly has no issue. He's been around children multiple times. I don't know that this doesn't paint a picture for me where I think level 1 is appropriate. Going back to the underlying offense, a 27-year-old man having a relationship with a neighbor. How old was she? 15. The mom intervened and said, "You need to stop," and he didn't do it. It's pretty bad statutory rape right there. That's bad. And then just 15 years of history of noncompliance with the law, getting kicked out of sex offender treatment, being around children. I don't see this as level 1.
Marcus, can you speak to the antisocial behavior in relation to treatment completion and how those two factors affect one another?
I think that antisocial sort of personality disorder does not improve a lot with treatment. However, I will be talking about how it improves with time and age, right? We mellow out. So, looking at this case, I think that, noncompliance is a risk factor. And since his 2012 evaluation, there's been some additional noncompliance. On the other hand, he's also had, 10 years without a new sex offense. So we need to separate a little bit. What's the likelihood that he's going to commit another crime, a non-sexual crime, which I think is moderate to, if not a little bit higher, versus what's the likelihood that he's going to commit another sex offense?
So, Bert, I'll ask you, do we want to pull these two cases and move them into committee for consideration?
Yeah, you mean vote on these two cases separately than the rest of the block?
Send them to the committee. Is that correct, Tracy? We can send them to the committee.
I'll make a motion to do that if it's.
Well, I think Tracy said to pull them to contemplate more and then vote again next month.
No.
The original recommendation for you all to contemplate, that is an option. Or if the committee wants to review the cases because it's really kind of a borderline decision, then the committee can review the cases, make a recommendation to the board next month as to whether the committee would suggest that we move on from these cases and vote as is recommended, or if it should be increased or not.
So Jim has a recommendation that we do that. Any questions or concerns, comments in regards to Jim's recommendation?
I'm sorry, which one was Jim's recommendation?
Jim?
My recommendation is that we pull it for further review. We pull this case that Bert's speaking of and the previous case right before that. Those numbers are the current ones, so I think 3431, and then we've got 27,162.
Yeah, my understanding from you, Jim, was that you wanted it to be pulled for committee.
Yeah, I think there was a process once where we circulated emails and we wrote why we agreed or disagreed, and then that data, I don't know if that's the process I'm referring to, but I think that's
it's a documented form actually that you fill out, and it's all the committee members would review all the documentation that SORRB has available to you. And then you would make your make notes and make your recommendation, and then bring it to the board to discuss that recommendation, and the board make a final vote on whether they believe it would be a 1 or whether it be a 2.
Okay, Bert, does that sound favorable to you?
Yeah, that's fine. I have no issue whatsoever giving everybody else on this organization time to contemplate and review. I'm perfectly fine with that.
Do you second it then?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Well,
Mhm.
I'm sorry, hold on a second. That's a little different process. So if it's
Right.
just about everybody contemplating,
It's
that's
a
a
different
simpler
thing.
process.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
it's a committee, it's an extensive process. So you could just go through a vote and see who, if we don't have a quorum, then we can pull it for committee.
Okay.
So you really kind of have 3 options here. Do a vote right now, and if you don't agree with the current recommended level, you just say no. Or pull it and you all have time to contemplate it for the next board meeting. Nothing will change, but you'll be able to contemplate and think about it more. Or we pull it for committee, and then the committee members, which is our 6 seats, will have to review all the documentation and do a write-up and then a recommendation.
And then it goes back for a vote in front of the board after the
Yes.
committee members have reviewed it. So the rest of the board members aren't really getting any additional information other than us looking at it and giving an opinion and then voting on it again.
That's sort of what we've done here. It's just honestly, I didn't go as deep into this as I should have, because I think we were notified yesterday. So, and Bert, that's no slam on you. It's hard. Some of the reports until previous week. So
I'm ready. My vote is to take a vote now.
Okay. All right. So we'll need, so we got to second that. So we have a counter for Mindy. So
I'll
what we
withdraw
do,
my second if
Okay.
the board wants to vote on these cases now. I'll withdraw my second so that is no longer, so action isn't required. And if Mindy wants to move to vote to vote now, then we can do that.
okay. So are there any other questions, comments, or concerns?
So that we're clear, do we want to move to vote on the slate of cases minus 3431 and minus 27162?
We'll be voting on those, but you do them individually with the reevaluations anyway.
Okay.
I mean, that was my understanding what Mindy was moving for, was to go ahead and move forward with the vote. You'd still vote the same way with your reevaluations. We're done with discussion, then we'll start that process.
All right. So I move that we do that.
Okay. So I'm clear. We're moving forward with a first and second to vote on these cases. Is that correct, Tracy?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So do I hear a motion that we adopt the reevaluation cases presented to the board for review?
No.
No.
You want to do a motion that you vote on the cases, the reevaluation cases right now?
Okay. So we're going to vote on those 3 only.
No, you're voting on all of them.
Well, that's what I was at. That's why I asked for a first and a second. Didn't I need a first and a second to adopt them?
Okay, now I'm confused too now that we're discussing that. So are we voting on these 2 cases separately? So for those that want to vote no,
Yes,
can?
we are voting, but for the reevaluations, I do the vote individually. So if I come to you, you will say, well, you can say that I vote no for this case and yes for the other cases.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I thought, but then I got confused again.
Let's do it.
Okay, but I still have to have a first and a second, correct? That we do
I think Mindy made the first motion and I'll officially second her motion. How does that sound?
Okay, yes, that's what I just wanted to make sure I was clear on. Okay. Okay, so now we're
clarifying. You are Mindy motion to move forward with voting on the reeval cases, and Bert has seconded to vote on the reeval cases.
That's correct.
Okay.
And everybody can vote yes or no on the separate cases if they decide individual cases no.
Which, just a note for everybody, you can do that with any of the levels, with any of the cases. It just kind of brings it to, the forefront with these.
Okay. All right. So Tracy, I think we're ready to take a vote now.
Okay, so when I call your name, if you are good with all the recommended levels, just say yes. If there is a case you are not good with the recommended level, tell me that case. I'll put you as a no. Okay. So Mindy, any questions or concerns about any of the reevaluation cases?
No, my vote is aye on all the cases.
Okay, thank you. Liz, any questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
Yes, but no, just because of a different vote. So my vote is aye on all of them except for 27162. And let me just make sure that's the right one. Yeah. That would be a no from me.
Okay, gotcha. And Jerry, any additional questions or concerns other than what's been discussed thus far in the reevaluation cases?
No, and my vote is aye across the board.
Thank you. Robbie, any additional questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No other questions. Yes on all cases except for 3431 and 27162.
Okay. Katie, any questions or concerns in addition to what we've already discussed on the reeval cases?
Nothing in addition to what we've already discussed. I vote aye on everything except for 27162. I vote no on that.
Okay, thank you. Jim, any additional questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No questions or concerns. I vote aye on every case except 27162. I vote no.
Okay, thank you. Frank, any additional questions or concerns on the reeval cases?
No, and my vote is aye on all the cases.
Bert, any additional questions or concerns about any of the reeval cases?
No questions. I'm a no on 27162, and I'm a no on 3431. And I'm a yes on everything else.
Thank you. And Lori had to go. So Lori had to go. So all her votes count up to she is not available for the reeval vote, but it's not necessary because we still have a quorum. Megan, any additional questions or concerns about any of the reevaluation cases?
My vote is aye, except for 27162 and 3431 is a no for me.
So we have 6 that are not in agreement with 27162, which is one shy of a quorum to, I'm guessing the recommendation was remaining at a level 2. So I would, and maybe our representative for the AG's office, which is Deborah Gore, maybe you could have a suggestion or tell me what you think about this. I think that maybe we should go ahead and do a vote for a level 2 or just pull it for committee, or because it's only one shy, but we don't have Lori's not here and James and Sheriff Brown. So we could pull it, represent it next month for another vote. I don't think it requires a committee review since we have 6 people already in concern with that level.
I agree, Tracy. I agree.
That's good. Okay,
And-
so do y'all,
and
how do
pulling
you
it
feel
from-
about?
All right, how about this? I move. So do we need, is 27162 the only question in case? Or only case in question?
So 3431, there's 3 that disagree. And so that one, let's see, because we're missing 1, 2, 3 people. So that would not meet quorum, and even if we had the 3 vote for a 3431 change. So the 3431, we don't have a quorum right now. We would pull that one for committee.
Okay, so I move that we pull 3431 and 27162, we want to pull them for committee, or we just want to pull them and take them up next meeting?
I think 3431, you pull for committee, but 27162, I would recommend we just resubmit it next month for another vote with the additional board members.
So I move that we pull 27162 to and resubmit next month. And I also move that we pull 3431 and send it to committee.
I
So that
second
motion's been
Bert.
made.
Excellent idea, Bert.
So do you second it, Jim?
I think Mindy
Megan
seconded.
already seconded it.
Okay,
And
okay,
Megan.
okay.
So
So
we can vote on this now, right?
So we will not be voting on 6.2 or 3431. We are voting on the rest of the reevaluation cases.
Okay, all right.
And I think
So
everybody's already affirmed all the rest of them, right?
That is correct.
so
So
Do we need to
those
vote
were
on my
two
motion, or
business
does my motion in the second automatically cause that action?
Yeah, no, you're correct. So
Say
those
aye.
pass.
Frank,
So
do
they
we-
all pass, and except for 27162, we are polling for next month, and 3431 we're sending to committee. So all the other reevaluation cases pass, and we're good to go.
all right.
Okay.
So is there any other questions or concerns about anything before we adjourn the meeting?
Let me just remind everybody, if you can, please stay on for Marcus's presentation. I'm going to give everybody about a 10-minute break so I can get the other staff on, and then we'll get it started.
I apologize.
Marcus, I am so sorry. I have an 11:30 and I caused the delay today, so I apologize. I'm going to miss your presentation. I apologize sincerely. So,
And I apologize too, because I really wanted to hear it. I've got to follow up with that phone call. So I'm sorry I'm not going to be able to make it, but I got your
Tracy sent out the
presentation.
handout, so if you have any questions about it, shoot me an email.
Okay.
perfect. Thank
All
you,
right.
Marcus.
All right. Do I hear a motion? We adjourn and go into Marcus's.
So moved.
I moved.
All right. Everybody, I'll see you in July.
Who seconded? I'm sorry. Before
No,
you.
me.
Oh, Liz. Okay, just for Kaylin's note taking. Okay, thank you. I appreciate. Thank you, everybody, and stay on. You can
Thank you.
just take your video off, and we will be regrouping here at 11:40.
You all have a good day.
Have a good day. Stay on. We will regroup in 10 minutes.
Tracy, yeah, just have to stop the live stream and the recording.
Okay, let's see. So, 2